Well, the Mahonia is in full bloom now, and there's bees all over it. Incredibly, there's a honeybee there. See, that's actually a honeybee hanging underneath the flower. And it's not the only one. There's all sorts of bees here, and flies. There's another honeybee. If you're in any doubt, you can see clearly a honeybee. So the Mahonia is actually an amazing plant for supporting wildlife. And of course the question is, should it be supporting wildlife in the middle of winter like this? Shouldn't all the bees be hibernating? But the fact is, nature is kind of fluid. If there are opportunities, they'll be exploited. If bees can keep going all year, if there's food, they will. And it's an amazing plant when you think about it, that it actually does flower in the winter. It's lovely to see a honeybee in December, and especially we're in mid-December now. That's really beautiful. Oh, bee isn't too worried. And those birds singing are starlings. Look at that. There's a little fly down there as well. Not sure what species that is. Lovely coloured eyes though. So there's the honeybee. I think they're all very tolerant because they know they all want nectar and pollen. Bees actually want the pollen, the flies probably just want the nectar. And also Fatsia japonica. And it has blue bottles on it in the middle of December, and it's quite cold. Though this, look at that, lots of them. Many species of flies. I mean, I'm not sure actually, there's so many species of flies, and these two in the middle of December are mating, which is incredible. There's a big queen bumblebee up there. I think it's Bombus terrestris, which is the buff-tailed bumblebee, as it's called, or the common ground bumblebee. But it's up there, a huge one. And there's a wasp. You would normally think the wasps would be gone by now, and I don't think that's a queen wasp. I think that's a worker. But the Fatsia japonica is producing food for them. Those flowers are very strange. They don't look particularly appealing. Petalless. But there's a big blue bottle over there. Amazing stuff. And the Fatsia japonica, huge. I mean, look at the size of the leaves against my hand. Lovely. And of course this is an evergreen with spiky leaves. But the flowers, I wish I could photograph the scent. It'll happen someday. They're beautiful. There's that big bumblebee again. Oh, they are. That scent is absolutely incredible. I'm not surprised they're coming from near and far. But this is the other question. Does the Fatsia have a scent? I've never tested it. Oh, try not to get stung by a wasp. No, it doesn't seem to. Not anything I notice anyway. Trying to get a look at this wasp. I think it is actually a queen wasp, but it's a queen wasp of a smaller species. But I need to see the face. Here are my two little friends here mating. I think they're actually a species of robber fly. And you see there's not just one wasp actually, there's another wasp over there. Also a queen, I'm pretty sure, by the long abdomen. But trying to see the face is important for getting the markings. So this could be, it's quite red and it's quite hairy. It could be a German wasp, I'm not sure. There's some markings. Yeah, that's definitely a queen, but she's much smaller than a common wasp. So it's fascinating, and she's not the only one. There's another one here. The workers have usually died off by now. Of course, these might not be the two species. They look the same though, but they might not be the same species. Two different species of wasp. Of the so-called yellow jacket variety. Yeah, that's a queen. Her long abdomen. What is she though? Yeah, lovely. So what I'll do is, see, you can see two of them there now, one resting and one in the foreground. And blue bottles and green bottles and a whole host of other insects. Now it's not a particularly cold day or anything after the storm. We're between storms, but it's enough to keep creatures. I mean, it is still winter, but once there's food supply, everything's fine and dandy, and they will be out, and the birds will be happy to eat them. Oh, now here's a predatory fly species. Try and get. It's actually going to approach the wasp. Must be insane. Oh, it's attacked the wasp. It actually attacked the wasp. It jumped onto its head. Now those flies, predatory flies like that. Actually, that wasp, that's a blue bottle crashing into the wasp. Actually, this seems to be a different species to the other wasp. So that's interesting. And that could be a common wasp, but I don't think so. Now I have to pause the camera and try and get some stills so I can identify them. Now I've had a look at this wasp's face, and it has an anchor mark on it, a black anchor mark. It's almost certainly a common wasp, although, and it's almost certainly a queen common wasp, it definitely seems to be. But she's a bit smaller than they do get. Although it's possible the eggs haven't developed inside her yet. She might only, because common wasps, they hibernate and they mate and then they hibernate. And when they awaken in, say, March or April, and sometimes later, they're actually pregnant, heavily pregnant and ready to lay eggs. And the female goes off, the queen, and she builds the nest herself. And the first young she tends to and looks after, and they then become her first workers. And then they help her out and make the nest bigger. There you go, you can actually see the anchor mark. So, although this wasp is pretty hairy, there you go, I suppose enough of wasps. But that's interesting, and here's the two still happily sunbathing and holidaying. And I'm not sure what they are for sure. They're kind of like the snail-eating flies. They have those pointy little heads, but I think they're not. They're conopids, as they call them. And there's a tiny little wasp. And that'd be an ichneumon wasp, a parasitic wasp. I'm not sure what it's. Of course, it might not be a parasite of animals, it might be a parasite of plants. But they don't usually do too much harm. Fascinating though. Lovely. It's a shame about all the noise on the road though.